Looking to start a save with Bournemouth on FM20 and have a little bit of a problem as of where to start. Well, it's the sort of content fuel. Hello there, folks. It is Toby from TIJ Gaming and welcome to my team guide on Football Manager 2020 for AFC Bournemouth, a club that have now amazingly been in the Premier League for 4 years. This is their 5th year. It doesn't seem like it's that long since they got promoted as victors of the Championship all the way back in 2015 now, but they've done very well since they've come into the Premier League. I don't think many people expect them to be permanent fixtures in the league, but are certainly doing very well, and in my opinion are on the up despite two finishes that have been fairly poor, 12th and 14th in the Premier League. I think we've got to try and snap that out and make that more of a mid-table finish. But in this 10-15 minute video I'll be showing you a various amount of things in FM20 which will hopefully help you in the start of your save with Bournemouth in guiding you to getting this club on the right track. And first we're going to have a quick look at the club vision, followed by transfers, the squad, the formation I'm recommended, the dynamics, transfer suggestions, followed by, and finally of course, the development sense to have a look at the youth players. So if we look at the club vision first off, there are two bits in the club culture that are important, and that is to play attacking and possession football. They really come hand in hand together. If you're playing attacking football, you're usually playing possession football, and to be fair, if you play possession football, you tend to be quite attacking. So the two go hand in hand together, but if you're not that type of manager, it doesn't matter too much. You can discuss those visions with the club in the first review of these objectives, but at the same token, they're only 2 out of 4 in terms of importance, so it shouldn't matter that much as long as you are succeeding. Obviously, if you're playing defensive and not conceding, then perhaps the club might say, look, I think you might ought to start playing attacking, or of course take it further and even give you the chop. But there's one thing to consider for the 5-year plan, which is a requirement, and that is to work within the wage budget. Again, that's not a surprise. It's the same for every Premier League club. The club have only got 50k left, to be fair, in terms of their wage budget a week. But at the same time, of course, if you move the transfer budget up and down, that can facilitate into quite a cushy amount of wage budget. But of course, that does mean that you have to compensate by losing transfer budget. But in terms of the free competitions the club is involved with this season, of course, not in European competition. So they're in the Premier League, the FA Cup and the EFL Cup. I think this would be a good opportunity this year, or maybe next year, to perhaps go for a cup win. If you could win a cup, you could get into Europe, and that would be a really good thing. But I think probably next 2 or 3 years as a personal goal, I'd have that to be if I was managing this club. But the requirement, the thing that's most important for the club, is that the team achieve a mid-table position within the Premier League. So that's really somewhere between kind of 7th and 14th. 14th where they finished last year. I would say they don't want to finish any lower than that, because that's not really mid-table. So I think if you finish at least sort of 12th, the club are going to be fairly happy. But yeah, a mid-table finish. And interestingly, for next season to record a top half finish. So just to arrest that slump a little bit and go back up to that sort of 9th level. So kind of back up to 12th this year and then back up to sort of 9th or 10th. I think that's a realistic goal, just to build up nice and slowly. No big pressure on you in the first 12 months, which is quite nice, to be fair. In terms of the cups, they want you to reach the 5th cup of the the 5th round of the Emirates FA Cup, which is the round of 16, which isn't too bad. And then to reach the 4th round of the EFL Cup. So about 5 or 6 games you're looking at playing in those 2 competitions to reach those requirements. Of course, desired importance in the FA Cup you get there, so that's a 3 out of 4, but in the EFL Cup it's only 2 out of 4, so not so important. The FA Cup, I think I'd go for it, but same token with the EFL Cup. Of course, the prize money is not as good from the EFL Cup, but if you can go and get to the final of the EFL Cup, that would be absolutely awesome. But that's about it really for the club vision. Interesting that they want to challenge for silverware. Yeah, the cup competitions, I'm not surprised the Premier League isn't the aim in that short amount of time. But yeah, silverware, they're looking to win potentially one of the cup competitions in the next few years. But that's only a favoured objective, so that's something the club aspire to do, but realistically know that that is going to be very, very, very tricky and might require a bit of a freak season. But anyway, let's talk about the transfers in and out of Bournemouth. Had a fairly quiet summer, really, Bournemouth. I've only spending 32.5 million, of course. Not the most rich club in the world, but they do well with the goods provided, if you like. But their big signing this year for the fee of £15 million with Philip Billing from Huddersfield. Now, a player I don't really know a lot about, but been at Huddersfield. I can't get my words right tonight. Been at Huddersfield since 2012. Transferred 15 million as a defensive midfield and a midfield role. Looks very good in defensive midfield and a solid player in the midfield as well. So Good player, could still improve at the age of 23. I think Bournemouth like to sign these sort of players that are good already but can improve in the future with age, and a good signing I think there for Bournemouth, one you'll definitely utilise in your save. They've also signed, I haven't heard of this guy, Arnoud Danjuma on the wing again, 22 years old, meets that sort of philosophy of signing young players, but again that's not something the club desperately want you to do, so it's not too important. He's a left winger by trade, but it can also play on the right. He'd been with Club Brugge for the last 2 years, but has come to us for $13.5 million for his first exposure to the Premier League, and that acceleration looks pretty good, and some of his other stats look pretty good as well. We're also brought in Jack Stacey from Luton Town. Personally, I thought, blimey, I think he's a bit of a championship player, but looks to be a little bit of just a depth player, which Bournemouth seem to have quite a bit of, to be fair. I was looking at the depth of the squad. I was surprised how much depth some of the positions have got, so fair play to them. Another depth signing, really, Jack Stacey. But once again, like the other two signings, room to improve in the future. A few free signings as well that we won't get too worried about, and also the loan signing of Harry Wilson from Liverpool. Now, as a Liverpool fan, I'm really excited about Wilson going on loan to Bournemouth this year. He's played really well in real life since going to Bournemouth. He's got a killer free kick on him, and some of those stats are really good, and I think he could be a really good player. And potentially Liverpool, depends on what they want to do with him next year. They might well sell him to you for a fairly nice price, sort of 15-20 million, which wouldn't be too bad. And let's just see how he gets on this year. But natural on both wings, very good versatile player that again could improve into the future. Two big departures though are Tyrone Mings for 20 million gone to Aston Villa. Personally, I think Villa have been mugged there. And Moussa has gone to Sheffield United for 10 million, leaving a little bit of a lack of attacking depth, I think it is fair to say. And Asmir Begovic has gone to Karabag on loan. So only two keepers, but two very capable keepers. So let's have a look at the tactic I've chosen for this team, and that's a 4-2-2. Now, I always feel Bournemouth are much better with two men up front, and I also feel them much better with two on the wing, which means that you either have three at the back and three in the midfield, or you sacrifice that man in the midfield. But I think having two in the midfield, a 4-2-4 wide, would work quite well. As long as you've got these players on the wing, not on attacking mentality, that just means that these two can sit back a little bit more, and you've got that defensive depth as well as the attacking depth in the squad. So we've got Ramsdale in goal. Aaron Ramsdale, a player that many of you won't know a lot about, but Bournemouth signed him a few years ago from Sheffield United when they were in League One. And I'd only heard of him for the first time, admittedly, at the weekend, but played very well against Manchester United, and looks to be a good player. Then we've got Smith, Cook, Ake and Kelly along the back. Lloyd Kelly, again, a young player, and looks to be good, signing from Bristol City. But we've got, of course, Jack Stacey, who we mentioned earlier, Diego Rico, Charlie Daniels. Now, I don't know why Rico is on the transfer list. Absolutely no idea. He's only joined the club a year ago, and looks to be a fairly decent player. So if I were you, I'd take him off that transfer list. He's a fairly decent player. Again, a fringe player, but sometimes you just need those fringe players. So unless he gets all grumpy, then I'd keep him. You've also got Simon Francis that also provides a bit of depth in terms of the attack. You've got Jordan Ibe, you've got Dominic Solanke, Dan Jubber we mentioned earlier, and David Brooks. Again, another very solid young player. That's what I like about Bournemouth. There's a little bit of a mix between old and young players who can really step in and become really solid players. We've also got that experience, which, of course, is paramount to any good Premier League squad as well. The only thing I'm concerned about from a Bournemouth point of view is striking depth, which I've just hinted at with Solanke on the bench. Now, Solanke's the third choice. We've got King and Wilson up front, but as you can see, apart from that, there is not a hell of a lot of choice up front. Jermaine Defoe is a choice, but he's out on loan. Can't terminate his loan. Oh, no, you can actually. You can recall him from loan. So, personally, I think, I didn't realise this, I will suggest a few players for you to sign up front as well. But personally, I'd bring Jermaine Defoe straight back from Rangers because he's a third choice striker. Just means you've got two strikers who can play, because I think that Bournemouth have been a little bit silly to sign Solanke, especially as a Liverpool fan. I think we've had a really good deal out of Solanke, and I don't think he's got what it takes. And with Wilson and Joshua King, if one of those gets injured, you haven't got anybody. So first off, we'll have a look at who I've suggested. Oh God, I can't get my words out. Suggested, there we go. You to bring it in that position, and also, of course, you've got the option of Jermaine Defoe as well. Now, in terms of a younger option, you've got Ryan Brewster again from Liverpool, a little bit like Harry Wilson. He is listed for loan. He's a solid young player. I think he'd be good for Bournemouth. He can also play on the right wing, which would help you out as well. But up front, he'd be a good fringe player, a little bit like Dominic Solanke. I think a little bit more potential than Solanke, in my opinion. Let's have a look at comparing the two players. Solanke a little bit better in some areas, but Ryan Brewster is 2 years younger, so you've got to 2.5 years younger actually. So you've got to give him a little bit of credit, and I think he'd be a decent player. Wants to break into the Liverpool first team, and will do that by really showing some good potential out on loan. A few strikers to consider as well. Wilfred Bonny has just been left go by Al Arabi. It was actually Swansea he was at before, but was let go as a free transfer. But a solid player. We all know Wilfred Bonny if you're a Premier League fan. If we compare him to sort of Jermaine Defoe, Wilfred Bonny is a good solid player, and I think he'd do well at Bournemouth, and that'd be pretty decent as well. Two other choices. You've got Ross McCormack, who's quite a versatile player. Was at Motherwell last year, on loan as well as the Central Coast Mariners. Did play in the Championship for Villa, but I still think he could do decently as a fringe player up front. And then you've got the legendary Eduardo, of course, formerly playing in the Premier League for Arsenal. But yeah, he's decent, but I think he'd probably be a last resort. But I think that Jermaine Defoe would be better than all of these. It's just the case that I'd recommend those if you, for some reason, couldn't get Jermaine Defoe back off loan. But apart from that, I think the squad's got plenty of depth. We look at squad depth. Yeah, there's some decent depth everywhere as we quickly go through. I haven't got time to go through every single player, but as you can see, there's plenty of depth everywhere, and that is pretty good. So just two things to look at before we round off this one. Then we've got the dynamics first off. A little bit of a worry here. Two of our players, we've got the captain and the vice captain, both approaching the end of their careers. That being Simon Francis at the age of 34 and Sermon at the age of 32. Now Steve Cook is 28, so again, not the youngest player. That's a little bit of a concern. I think that players potentially like Josh King, Callum Wilson will need to step in the future. But of course, we've got a very young culture going on at Bournemouth, so I think that potentially other players could wriggle into that group. There's a big core social group, which is a good thing to see. But yeah, I'd be a little bit worried about that. Obviously, I'd want to manage the departure of Simon Francis, probably looking at the next 12 months, aren't we? If his contract runs out at the end of next year. And then probably Sermon potentially next year as well, potentially both at the same time. He's actually transfer listed by the club, unbelievably. But yeah, if that's a player you want to get rid of now, by all means get rid of him. But I'd be a little bit worried, even if he's not playing. I think that keeping him on the wage bill is going to be less damaging than potentially the damage to the hierarchy here. But I think just to manage those well, and other players should get promoted to being team leaders. But just a bit of a worry that 2 out of 3 are going to go at the same time, it looks like. But finally, we're going to have a quick look at the development centre. Again, something that's very important for Bournemouth. They've got a very good youth base and a lot of players that could come through into the squad without you really having to spend any money in the next few years. So in this screen, you can have a look at first team candidates, so players that are in the under-23 squad that already could be considered as first team players. So here we've got Jack Simpson, been at the club since 2013, who could come in as a central defender if needed. He's 6th choice, but I'm sure he'll go up there. As you can see, his potential ability is somewhere up with Chris Mepham, who again is 21 years old. Could improve a lot in the future, and potentially you could look to promote him to the main team. You've also got your 5 players to watch as well, which will change over time. And just bear in mind that potentially you might want to send some of these out on loan. You've got 3 of those already out on loan. But the likes of Mark Travers and Wadham could potentially go out on loan. But I think you've got a good youth set up at Bournemouth. Not much pressure on you, and I think it can only go well. I think that you've got a committed board, a committed squad, and I'd be really excited. It's actually tempted me to do a little bit of a Bournemouth save myself. Who knows? But that's going to be it for today's team guide. I hope you guys have enjoyed. I hope you guys found it beneficial more than anything. And if you have enjoyed, make sure to leave a like down below and comment your thoughts as well. Any contribution you've got to make to the Bournemouth discussion. If you've started a Bournemouth save again, got any questions or got any stories to tell, please leave them down in the comments. But if you're interested in any other Premier League club in terms of a team guide, those are all over on the channel, in the channel playlist, so make sure to go and check them out. And also check out the daily content I've got coming out on the FM20 beta with my Liverpool beta save and further content from there. But that is it for today's video. Thank you very much for your company, folks. I've been TIJ Gamer, and until the next time, I will see you guys later. Goodbye for now.